Secretary of State Marco Rubio just fired a shot across the bow of the International Criminal Kangaroo Court. Oh man, was that a powerful warning. We've got that story for you. Also, new claims from the Trump administration about non-citizens on our voting rolls, election interference from China, and the Democratic Socialists of America have a new platform, and they are making massive electoral gains across the country. All that and more in our news segment. We have some very special guests joining us today, including the two parents from Brazil who were sentenced to 50 days in prison for educating their daughters without weird gender and sex stuff demanded by the regime. We also have a Texas mother joining us who was literally arrested on the orders of local officials from the government indoctrination camp. We have a guest who's leading the charge against an effort by the Church of Scientology to take over big parts of the city of Clearwater. And we have our great friend Paul Blair talking about what's going on with our young people today when it comes to their knowledge of our history, of economics, of so many other critical areas, and of course the Liberty Pastor Summits that are coming up. All that and much more today on the Sentinel Report. I'm going to start like we always do with a word from the Word. This comes out of Psalm 23, verses 1 through 4. The Bible reads, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." And before we get to Andrew and the news, I want to tell you folks about our good friends over at Mark 37. For almost 20 years, I was using a flip phone, and after learning about these, I decided, you know what, I'll give it a try. It's they've got all kinds of interesting devices. They've got smartphones that have been de-Googled, that have had all the spyware taken off of them. They've got programs where they can teach you how to protect your data. It's just a wonderful company, and we are very grateful to be partnered with them. And the reality is, folks, your portable surveillance device is sending all of your most private and intimate data to evil companies that hate you and to their partners at big government, who in many cases also hate you. So you can reclaim your privacy, you can reclaim control over your data just by learning how it works and getting yourself some of the key tools. And you can find all that and much more at mark37.com/liberty. That's at mark37.com/liberty to learn more. They've got a free webinar. It's absolutely fantastic, where he talks about what's going on and how we get back on the road to digital privacy and digital sovereignty. Joining us today, we have the great Andrew Muller, Chief of Operations here at Liberty Sentinel Media. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Alex, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here with you as always.
It's great to have you. So a lot going on in the news. I want to start with Marco Rubio taking on the International Criminal Court, so-called. Now, we've been warning about this kangaroo court for many, many years, but here is the U.S. Secretary of State just hammering these people. Check it out.
Halfway across the world, there's an institution that calls itself the International Criminal Court. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. But chances are you don't know the names of its judges, of its prosecutors, or its president. And you shouldn't have to. But as we speak, the ICC and its friends are waging a war against our country, not with bullets or missiles, but with statutes, compacts, and the force of so-called international law. When the ICC was born 24 years ago, they told us that it was merely a narrow backstop, a global court that would step in to prosecute only the gravest offenses, things like genocide and war crimes, and only when a nation's courts were unable to prosecute them on their own. But the truth is, it was something far more radical and extreme. It was a global tribunal staffed by unelected globalist bureaucrats who claim their power is almost unlimited.
Yep, that's exactly what we've been telling you folks for decades. These tyrants like to claim universal jurisdiction. In other words, they think they can prosecute anybody in the world. There's a bunch of representatives on this kangaroo court, so-called, from third world dictatorships that have absolutely no respect for the God-given rights of Americans or anyone else. And there are no traditional protections that we take for granted, due process of law, trial by jury in this kangaroo court. And now they are trying to prosecute Americans. In fact, they want to prosecute not just our soldiers, but even some of our leaders, even though the United States has never signed on to their silly treaty that created this abomination. But Marco Rubio says they are going to learn about American resolve if they keep this up.
Is our birthright. We will never let foreign bureaucrats take that away from us. This administration will not sit by as the ICC and its allies seek to threaten our people. If they believe they can deprive us of our sovereignty, we will teach them the full meaning of American resolve.
Amen. He goes on to say, we will dismantle this thing brick by brick if we need to. And kudos to the Trump administration for taking on these global tyrants. Andrew, what do you make of that? I mean, these self-proclaimed judges and courts want to haul Americans before them, even though our government has never even ratified this. I mean, how out of control are these institutions?
Extremely out of control. I mean, even if we just think of our national Supreme Court, we've had a complete subversion of what that is. We think it's the, supreme arbiter, the final arbiter of all of our laws, that whatever they say is opinion is gospel. And we also have this ICC, which, as Marco said so aptly, I believe, most people don't even know about. And yet they're ruling about climate change and what, various nations and governments need to do with regards to CO2 output and, curbing that. So I think it's about time that our officials start to call this out. We need action, though, to back it up, to actually dismantle it brick by brick. And I would love to see Congress start to get involved with pulling the United States out of internationalist organizations, including the UN. But so far, it's just been the White House in the wilderness saying this without any sort of legislative backup, which has to change.
Yeah, if we want to make these changes sustainable, we've got to have Congress backing them up by the force of law. Now, Trump gave a very important speech. If you watched the boob tube, you probably didn't hear about it. They tried not to carry it, but he gave some really important facts about this incredible so-called election that we had in 2020. Obviously, a giant fraud. But here he is talking about the Chi-Coms interfering in that election.
First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project.
Yeah, wow, folks. There's also enormous numbers of illegal immigrants on our voting rolls. In fact, according to the president, they've got well over 250,000 of them already identified, registered to vote in federal elections. That's according to investigations by the Department of Homeland Security. And you've got a lot of Democrat states that are refusing to even share their files. So the real number is certainly much, much higher than that. In fact, my guess is probably a lot of these Democrat states have voter rolls that are filled with illegal immigrants. Here's the president again.
Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review of state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote.
Yeah, folks, a lot of these elections, by the way, are won by hundreds, thousands of people. We're talking massive margins here for shenanigans. You can find all of this at the White House website, whitehouse.gov/election-integrity, whitehouse.gov/election-integrity. I encourage you to check it out, folks. The elections are critical. There are a lot of people and nefarious actors that would love to be able to hijack control of our government. I believe they are doing that. And earlier today, we interviewed the great Tina Peters for half an hour. You can find that over at thenewamerican.com, libertysentinel.org. We'll send it out in the newsletter as well. But she just spent almost 2 years in a Democrat gulag for trying to preserve the evidence of this massive fraud. So you'll definitely want to hear that. You can find it. But Andrew, what do you think? Where do we go with elections here? The Democrats are just claiming that Trump's being a conspiracy theorist. Where should we be going?
Well, I think we need to have state action on this. Florida's passed their version of the SAVE Act. I think we need to have states step up and require voter ID, have states step up and secure their own elections. The SAVE Act, I agree with the premise of it that the president's pushing. And that's how he ended that speech, by the way, is he said, we need to pass the SAVE Act to fix this. I think that's federalizing elections. And people aren't going to like to hear this, but it's the truth. We can't start to have Congress and the feds get involved in what the criteria is for our election. There's no constitutional provision for them to be able to do that. Elections are up to the states. So states have to get involved in this. I think they can and they should. Florida has set a good tempo for this. It needs to happen locally rather than federally. But I think the president is exactly right on his diagnosis of the problem.
Yeah, and Tina Peters had some really good suggestions too. There's apparently a federal body that can certify or decertify machines that are being used in federal elections, and the Senate apparently is holding that up. But you're right, we also need to have states and locals involved, and we need prosecutions of people who have been involved in vote fraud. I mean, as long as these people think they can get away with it scot-free, there will continue to be illegal efforts to tamper with our elections. Now, speaking of elections, we've got the Democratic Socialists of America on the move. They're winning elections all over the place. Zoran Mamdani, just one of the most prominent individuals associated with this. But they've just released their new platform. It's absolutely crazy. Apparently, they're going to use it to create thriving working class communities and working class foreign policy and working class democracy. And so to do that, we need more government resources for recreation and for learning and for social spaces. We need healthcare for all. The government's going to run your healthcare. They did such a good job with the DMV that we ought to put our healthcare there as well. Housing for all. Housing apparently is a human right. So we're going to force people to build you a house. And if you don't like it, too bad. Involuntary servitude will be the order of the day. We're going to finish Reconstruction. Apparently the feds will come in and beat all those evil Southerners to a pulp to enforce whatever they say. We're going to end mass incarceration, demilitarize police departments. Feminism for all. Just what America needs is more feminism. Socialist feminism fights for queer liberation, says this absurd platform. Yeah, just what we need. Socialist feminism fighting for queer liberation. Green New Deal, okay? Foreign affairs. We're going to end the U.S. war machine. Defund the Department of War. Oh, I bet the Chi-Coms are sitting back loving it. No wonder we have so many foreigners pushing this kind of filth in our country. Free Palestine, whatever that's supposed to mean. We've got to abolish ICE, end ICE detention and deportations. Oh, what could go wrong? Real democracy, right? Folks, read James Madison, Federalist number 10. In a democracy, you have no rights. There is no security for private property, and democracies have generally been as violent in their lives or as short in their lives as they've been violent in their deaths, according to the father of our Constitution, who established a republican form of government based on the rule of law, that law, really the supreme law, coming from the Bible, as they said when they were creating it. So much more there. But a lot of these people are now also starting to really reveal their true colors. Here's some DSA members, Democratic Socialists of America, saying the quiet part out loud. Check it out.
And, we have a unique responsibility to act from the heart of empire, the belly of the beast. The most important thing that we can do is take that empire down from within.
Our role ultimately is to facilitate our own empire's failure in ways that we can, ultimately to overthrow our own empire.
U.S. imperialism is not a thing that can be reformed away. It has to be overthrown through revolutionary struggle.
And to build a mass movement that can use the leverage of workers to hit the kill switch on American imperialism here within the American empire.
All right, folks, there you have it. They want to overthrow our system from within. What could possibly go wrong? Why would the Chi-Coms be so interested in this? Well, I think you could figure it out. We also have a radical leftist commentator described on fake news Wikipedia as one of the most influential voices of the American left, calling for mass murder of property owners. Here you go.
Poor people that they can afford housing in Berkeley. I don't know how that works.
Well, my understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill them. Murder those streets. Let the streets soak in their
Red capitalist bloods, dude.
Okay, yeah, let them stew. Let them soak in their capitalist blood. And by the way, Texas Democrats are all trans, homosexual, tofu-eating vegans who are going to hell. That's not my opinion. That's one of their speakers at their Democrat convention. Listen.
Next time they say that James is trans, we're all trans. When they say James is a gay tofu-eating vegan, we're all gay tofu-eating vegans. And when they say James is going to hell, we'll say we're all going to hell. But joke's on them.
Yeah, folks, I don't want any of those people to go to hell. And so we need to calmly and lovingly share the gospel with these people. We don't want our neighbors to be trans, gay, tofu-eating vegans who are going to hell. We just don't want that. And we also don't want our country going to hell. So we have an obligation to do what we can to stop this. Andrew, man, the radical left is really starting to drop the mask. What do you think it means?
I think it means we're nearing the end of the charade that they've created. They've tried to say they're moderates. They've tried to say they're pro-America, that we both have the same vision for American prosperity, just different ways of getting there, that we can be bipartisan and work across the aisle. That's not true at all. There's not a same vision. There's not just different ways of getting there. It's two completely separate worldviews and ideologies. One is the Christian conservative vision for America that wants to save and preserve our constitutional republic with God's help for faith, family, and freedom. And the other is a Marxist, communist, insider coup to destroy the United States of America and make it into a one world communist system that serves ultimately their father, the devil. There is no collaboration. There's no bipartisanship with these people. And I think they're starting to release the mask, let it slip down and see their true colors. And this should be very revealing for us, but also warn us that we are nearing the end of this fight. And unless everyone gets involved, unless churches and pastors and people who've been sitting on the sidelines, just getting upset, commenting on Facebook, unless those people get involved, these folks have a shot at winning, not in the eternal sense, but in the temporal sense. And I don't think I want to live in a country where these people are in charge. So if this upsets you, this mask slipping moment where they're saying, yeah, we're all going to hell, we're all trans now, this, that, and the other, that should be your wake-up call for we are nearing the end of the fight, and we need you to step in the ring.
Yeah, now's the time, folks. If you've been waiting on the sidelines, waiting for a sign, this is it. Get off the couch, get involved. So much is riding on what happens even just over the next few months. Folks, Donald Trump has declared a national emergency. He declares that there's a national emergency with respect to the threats to the availability of sufficient supplies of fertilizer to meet expected agricultural demand. We've got the U.S. Farm Bureau reporting that 70% of farmers cannot afford the amount of fertilizer they normally go through during the summer. So we've got a serious problem on our hands, folks. We have got to get all these things under control, but I think we're headed for some stormy waters. So be prepared. We need to be paying attention to what's going on here, and we need to be prudent about taking precautions and protecting our family. Before we go to our first break and then come to our guests, I do want to tell you about our friends over at Renegade Financial, folks. These are some really, really good people. I've been personally involved with them for a while now. In fact, I was featured in their documentary. And we've been talking about the great taking right here on this program for years. And we know now the legal mechanism that they're going to use to make sure we own nothing. It's these changes that they made in UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, in Article 8. And I have looked everywhere for financial advisors, for people who are in the financial space, who are willing to talk about this, who are willing to warn their clients about this. And nobody's willing. Nobody either knows or wants to talk about it. So when I found my friends over at Retirement Renegade, who were not only willing to talk about it, but put $1 million into making a documentary to get this information out to people, I thought, these are some good guys. We really, really should be working with them. So they're an independent retirement fiduciary firm. And again, it's one of the only groups in this space that I know of that's willing to sound the alarm about this. So they actually have an incredible documentary that I was featured in. You can watch it for free if you get over to retirementrenegade.com/liberty. That's retirementrenegade.com/liberty. If you use that promo code LIBERTY when you check out, you're actually going to get to watch the documentary for free. Go check it out. There's no obligation. It's a great movie. And if nothing else, you will just be better informed about what the evildoers are planning for your money, for your investment portfolio, for your retirement, so that hopefully we can make some better decisions together. Stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break with more. And also get over to the website, libertysentinel.org. Stay tuned.
If you've been following Alex Newman's reporting on the Great Taking, you already know the laws governing your IRA and your 401k were quietly changed. What you may not know is what to do about it, specifically for your accounts. My name is Andrew Winnett. I'm a certified financial fiduciary and the founder of Retirement Renegade. I spent $1 million producing the Retirement Reset, the documentary Alex Newman appears in alongside Tucker Carlson, Ben Stein, Lauren Seidel-Baker from ITR Economics, and more. Right now, I'm offering Liberty Sentinel listeners two things completely free. First, stream the Retirement Reset. Go to retirementrenegade.com/liberty and use promo code LIBERTY at checkout. Watch the full film and see the evidence yourself. Second, once you have watched it, book a free 15-minute retirement income clarity session. I will show you specifically how your accounts are structured, where the vulnerabilities are, and what a protected retirement plan looks like for your situation. Free, no obligation. Go to retirementrenegade.com/liberty. That is retirementrenegade.com/liberty. Promo code LIBERTY. Do it today.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, we have talked a lot about government schools and government school districts gone wild. But when Citizens Defending Freedom introduced us to our next guest, her name is Laura Cervantes, it was like, no way, really? So she is a Texas mom, she's a parental rights activist. She is now suing the Plano Independent School District. This is in the state of Texas, alleging very serious violations of her rights. The story, it's just absolutely wild. So she's got a lawsuit, and unfortunately, it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? This is representative of what we're seeing, not just across Texas, but across the country. Laura, welcome to the Sentinel Report. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
So give us some background. You had a nonprofit, you're getting involved with the school district comes after you, and somehow now law enforcement is involved. They're issuing a warrant for your arrest. They're taking over your nonprofit. Absolutely wild. Give us a story.
Yes, it is an absolutely wild story. So myself and two other moms have been officers of this nonprofit 501c3 booster club that supported a choir program in Plano ISD. And shortly after coming on board, began to notice a lot of discrepancies between what we were being asked for and what actually is codified in policy and law in the state and federal statutes. And was meeting resistance in trying to get clarification from them as to where their requests were coming from. The relationship continued to become untenable. We were trying to salvage it as best we could, and then received a request to pay for repairs to a stage on the campus, which we declined to do, and subsequently would learn that we actually, as Plano voters, had previously approved in 2016 that there be bond money allocated to the repair, specifically of this stage, which we were being asked exactly the same to repair. So what happened to that bond money? None of us have any idea. As we continue forward and are declining their request, we get told that we are being disavowed, meaning the district no longer recognizes us as an official entity with the organization, with the school district. And all that does really is say that you can't use our property anymore without having to go through certain policies like a church would. And we're not going to advocate for your fundraising or promulgate it through our official channels. But you cannot dissolve an organization. It's a separate 501c3. You can't reorganize it, take it over, none of that. So I began a grievance, which was a 10-month ordeal. During that time, discovered that Plano ISD, as we suspected, had not just been withholding our organization's mail, but was actually opening it and using it, having their attorneys, their legal call our payees to try to get me to drop the grievance. When that didn't work, and now we've gotten into a new school year, they get a new set of parents who have no idea what's going on and proceed to tell them that this organization is seemingly there for the taking, and hold an election of officers, and then have a Plano ISD district administrator, Philip Morgan, the head of fine arts, escort these parents to our organization's bank to justify somehow this legitimate takeover of our organization's bank account. And then they began taking over the web account, the bookkeeping, everything that this organization needed to operate. The grievance finally ended, again, 10 months later, with this negotiation tactic of, if you will go ahead and turn everything over and legitimize the illegal activity we've committed, then we'll go ahead and tell the community that you all have never done anything wrong, which was a lie they had been somehow promulgating as well through their emails, through talking to other parents, that somehow because we had not turned over this money, it had been misappropriated. And so I declined to take that offer as well. We knew we had not done anything wrong. I had sought the help of law enforcement. Plano PD, Plano detectives met with me, also went to the Collin County Sheriff's Department, spoke with one of their financial crimes investigator, and nobody would take up this case. I was being told that it was a civil matter. So all of it kind of fizzled after the grievance. The vendors, including the bank, undid everything. Their own legal had determined that it was an improper takeover and turned everything back over to us legitimate officers. We thought everything had kind of died down at that point. And then a year later, discover when a check our organization had written bounced, that the funds in the account had been seized. And that led to getting to know that we had a warrant coming for our arrests. I had an attorney reach out to the detective to try to figure out what was going on, because none of us had even been contacted by Plano PD. And the detective had told the attorney that Plano ISD wanted me arrested, that I was welcome to come talk to them, but there was nothing that was going to change our imminent arrests, that I show up to school board meetings, which I do, that they call me intimidating and entitled, and that I intended to run for school board in a few months. And so they wanted full charges pressed. And so that moved forward. The three of us moms were arrested on state felony theft charges.
What? You actually got arrested, huh? They took you down to jail and took your fingerprints and...
Yeah, all of that.
Oh,
DNA
goodness.
swabs were taken. We spent 22 hours in a Collin County jail.
Wow, that is just wild. And so now we've only got a couple minutes left, Laura, but now you are suing in a federal court to try to get these people held accountable, huh? I'm sure they will claim that they have whatever immunity as government officials, but how are you guys hoping to puncture that?
Well, these are civil rights violations, and school districts aren't immune from civil rights violations, thankfully. And so coming down on them with accusations of violations of the First, Fourth, Fifth, and 14th Amendment are things that are going to be difficult, we believe, for them to overcome. And thankfully, I've got quite a bit of evidence that demonstrates what they have done to us. So thankful a grand jury cleared us and exonerated us. But this cannot happen again. This is absolutely out of control. A school district thinks it can take over a separate entity. And then when the people who are part of that entity say, no, you can't, you arrest us. I mean, it is absolutely out of control. And every parent should be aware of what is going on. We know this is not just Plano. We know that these kind of threats come down the pike in other districts as well. Parents just usually don't know that they have the ability to say no, or afraid, like what happened to us. How much worse could it get?
Yeah. This is part of a long pattern. I mean, during the Biden administration, we had the Department of Justice investigating parents who speak out too vocally as terrorists. We had FBI squads showing up to visit moms who spoke out at the school board. This is just an outrage. It's absolutely absurd. And it reminds me, over a decade ago, I published a book I co-wrote with Sam Blumenfeld called Crimes of the Educators. And I think now we can safely add to that list terrorizing and persecuting parents who try to speak up too loudly. Absolutely crazy. Meanwhile, in Texas, as we have documented right here on this program, you've got teachers who have been accused of raping children who are not being reported to law enforcement, who are being assigned to different schools, different classrooms. It's out of control, folks. If you love your children, if you love your grandchildren, if you love your country, you're going to have to do something about this. Laura, where can people find out more about this horrifying story?
Yes, we've got our website, jasperchoir.org. You can find out more, you can actually see the lawsuit that has been filed against the district. And one of the things we are so grateful for Citizens Defending Freedom doing is that they are helping to fundraise to offset the cost of what is a significant financial load when you're filing a federal lawsuit. Something many of these districts count on is that it's just cost prohibitive to fight them. And so also at jasperchoir.org, you can see a link where you can donate to our defense fund to help us defend our rights that have been violated.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, Citizens Defending Freedom doing some amazing work. In fact, I'll be speaking at their pastors conference coming up here real soon, folks. If you're anywhere near Florida, send your pastor. Laura, thank you very much for coming on the program. Thank you for standing up and fighting, even though it's hard. It's the right thing to do. We appreciate you coming on, and I hope you will keep us updated on this incredible story.
Thank you for the opportunity. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. All right, folks, stay with us. We are going to be back with more right here on the Sentinel Report in just a moment.
In the grand tapestry of nature, a delicate balance weaves life's intricate threads. Today, this balance is faltering more and more as bee populations face unprecedented challenges. Without a collective effort to rescue our bees and enhance biodiversity, we're headed for devastation on a global scale. But amidst the chaos, a solution has emerged. A rallying cry echoes. A call to protect these guardians of our food chain. Introducing 4R Bees, a technology-driven organization that is saving bees globally and organically every day. At 4R Bees, we understand the critical role that bees play in maintaining the balance of our ecosystem. Saving the bees is synonymous with saving our planet, and 4R Bees is at the forefront of this mission. Visit 4rbees.com to learn more about how you can save the bees and redefine the course of our future.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. Folks, the church, in air quotes, Church of Scientology is trying to take over the streets of Clearwater, according to activists working to stop that. Apparently, they already own a huge part of the city. Now they want public areas of the city. Joining me now to discuss all of this and much more is one of the activists leading the charge to stop it. His name is Brooks Gibbs. He's an award-winning resilience educator. He's an international speaker. He has spoken at thousands of schools across the United States. He teaches on resilience, emotional resilience, conflict resolution, applying the golden rule in everyday life, and much more. His videos have been seen by hundreds of millions of people around the world, and now he is campaigning to stop this Scientology takeover of public streets in Clearwater. Brooks, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Alex.
Great to have you. So give us a little background here. I think people outside of Clearwater don't realize, I guess Scientology is based there, the headquarters, and they've been gobbling up more and more of the city. Tell us what's going on in Clearwater.
Yeah, the founder, L. Ron Hubbard, had a plan called Project Normandy. And this was like 50 years ago, and he really wanted Clearwater to be a Scientology city. And so it's sort of sacred papers for the Scientologists, and they have executed it like a holy war, like a jihad, to try every which way to gobble up properties. In fact, they have over 208 properties downtown Clearwater, across the bridge from America's best beach, and it's over $1 billion worth of holdings. And now they're coming for the streets because they want to create a moat, if you will, to prevent people from accessing their holy Mecca. And the citizens couldn't do anything about the buildings unless they could compete with bids that are 4 times the value of the market for those buildings. But now they're coming for the streets. That's public assets. And so this is something that the Clearwater citizens have band together to save Garden Avenue, the first street they're coming for.
Wow. And I guess the city council was okay with this? Am I getting this right?
Yeah, for the last 50 years, city council has always contended against the Scientology and their advancement. There's only so much they could do. So a street, you would think they would be able to preserve that, especially if it's an important street and not a dead-end alleyway. But this is right off a main road, a state road actually, and it provides great relief from beach traffic. It gets us into downtown. But because they're the #1 donor, the Scientologists donate to the tune of millions of dollars to the local Republican GOP here. It really does have some sway, and everyone wonders why in the world would they ignore 9,000 signatures we acquired for citizens saying, please don't sell the street. yet they gave it away. They didn't even sell it. They actually gave it away anyways, and now we're trying to take it back.
Wow. Brooks, there's been a lot of reports over the years of people who cross the Scientologists, having private detectives following them around and just weird stuff. What kind of response have you guys seen from this institution? Are they targeting not just the political, but also the activists? What are they doing when it comes to your efforts to stop this takeover?
50 years ago, our Clearwater mayor called them a paramilitary terrorist organization. And that is exactly how they operate even today. Although they say their fair game tactics to ruin people's lives doesn't exist, it does. When I started this a year ago to defend the streets and to protect them from takeover, I've had multiple websites put up with my name on it, absolute lies about me and my background. If I'm speaking somewhere around the country, they will call the principal or the vice principal or the superintendent and say Brooks is a bad guy. All this kind of digital warfare from the Church of Scientology or their parishioners. And so, yeah, when you go up against them, you're going to get retaliation. It may not be physically violent, but it's definitely a psyop.
Wow. That's amazing, Brooks. So where do you guys go from here? You're trying to collect signatures now to get this stopped. What are the next steps? I guess the city council approved this back in June. Where do you go from here?
Well, most city charters, at least in the state of Florida, they allow a provision called a ordinance referendum. We call it a voter veto. So let's say your city council passes an ordinance that you don't like. You have 90 days from the adoption of the ordinance to collect 10% of the voting population. For us, that's 7,000 signatures. We've already done this before, collecting 9,000. So we have about 60 days left to collect thousands of signatures, and we're doing great. We're actually going to accomplish it. And we're doing two things. Number one, we're doing a voter veto to take back the street and put it for a vote, a special election, so that the city can decide whether to give the street to Scientology. And the second thing we're doing with our second petition is to amend the charter to make voter approval required for any future land or street vacations, because really the citizens need to intervene.
Wow. Brooks, is there a place where people can learn more about this? I know you guys have a website up, savethegarden.org. Is that the best place to go for updates and for information on this?
Yes, it is. We're trying to save Garden Avenue. So it's savethegarden.org. And we're finding that this is sort of a David against Goliath situation. We have multiple documentaries about our fight. I encourage everyone, be inspired. We're normal citizens, civically engaged against a Goliath, and it's quite a fascinating story.
Yeah, it is amazing, Brooks. I'm just, I knew it was a strange story before we brought you on, but I'm just blown away. I want to thank you for coming on the program. Thank you for sharing your insights on this. I hope you keep us updated, and good luck to you.
Will do. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Brooks Gibbs. Again, you can check out their operation at savethegarden.org. And it just speaks to so many different issues, but it's, the power of political donations, the power of institutions that use the force of government. It's just very strange. And if you know anything about Scientology, man, is there some strange theology there. So stay with us. We're going to be right back after this quick break with more. Hey guys, Alex Newman here. I want to tell you about a wonderful ministry that is doing incredibly important work. That's Public School Exit. I am very blessed to serve as the volunteer executive director. We've got an incredible team, and our mission is simple. Try to get as many children into the safe sanctuary of Christian education as humanly possible, as quickly as possible. Government schools are no place for children. Children need to learn about God. They need to learn the Word of God. They need real education. They need to learn how to read, write, and do math. And we all know that's not what's happening in the government schools. In fact, what's happening is they're turning our children into revolutionaries, little radicals ready to burn down our churches and our civilization, not to mention our families. So go check it out today, publicschoolexit.com. We've got all kinds of resources for parents, for pastors, for taxpayers, for everybody down the line. And folks, this is one of the most critical battles. So go check out our partners at publicschoolexit.com, publicschoolexit.com. Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. Folks, a few weeks ago, we talked about a family in Brazil that was being targeted by the regime for homeschooling. It sounds crazy, but it's true. They actually were sentenced to prison. They were sentenced to 50 days behind bars for homeschooling their daughters. We have been following the case very closely. We've been in communication with a lot of people in Washington, D.C. about this, and this is becoming kind of a global scandal for authorities in Brazil. Right now, the parents are out pending the outcome of the appeal. But joining us today, we actually have the parents. They do not speak English. So what we're going to be doing here, we also have their attorney with us, and I'll introduce them in a moment. But what we're going to do is a little bit different than we typically do. I will ask the question in English. I will then re-ask it in Portuguese. We're going to cut that out so you don't have to hear it. They will answer in Portuguese. We're going to cut that out so you don't have to hear it. And then their attorney will translate that into English so that you all can understand it. And then we'll chat with the attorney a little bit as well. As far as I'm concerned, this is one of the biggest abuses by a government on homeschooling that we have seen in a very long time. So I want to welcome to the program. We have homeschool mother Ieda Denardi. We have homeschool father Adauto Denardi. And we have their attorney with us, Isabelle Monteiro. She is a lawyer who did postgraduate work in education law. Welcome to the program. Bem-vindos e muito obrigado.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. So let's start with just the background, the story. You guys were educating your daughters at home. There's no question that they were getting a good education. In fact, the psychologist the government brought in agreed with that. Even the prosecutor wanted to drop the case. Talk about your experience here. You're homeschooling, and then the next day the government is coming after you.
We officially started homeschool in 2022 after we tried for it in the time of the pandemic in 2022. And we saw that it started to work with our daughters. And we put them out of the school and started the classes at home in 2022. But it was so fast. In 2022, April, we had the first problem with the civil law when the social members came to our home to ask why our children was not going to the school anymore. But we had told to the school that we will start homeschool with them, and we have all a program to go, and we were giving them a legal education. Everything came very well in the judiciary. We passed the kids from the psychologists and other professionals that could see that they was having study at home. So the judge in the end, he said that it wasn't having an abandono intellectual, but he told us that we should put the kids back to school because in Brazil we doesn't have a law, a fine that's saying that we can homeschool our children. So he told us that was not a problem, that we just have to put them back to school, and everything was okay. But in 2024, we had already a criminal case started in the judiciary. So in April, in 2026, we had the final decision from the judge, a different judge, that instead of the require of acquittal from the prosecutors, because the family presented more than 3,000 pages of proofs that the girls was studying, and a lot of documents and a lot of studies showing that the judge told them that they should stay 50 days in prison in a semi-open regime. I don't know if you have this in the United States, but here in Brazil, the parents sleep on the jail and pass the day free. But the place nearby that they can do this is more than 100 miles from their home. So they need to stay in another city with the kids staying alone in their homes to just sleep in the jail for 50 days.
Wow. And my understanding is that your daughters were actually thriving under homeschooling. My understanding is that they play music and they speak multiple languages, that the government itself realized this, that the independent psychologists realized that there was certainly no intellectual neglect here. Talk a little bit about how your daughters handled homeschooling and their thoughts.
In the first time, our family got so shocked about the criminal sentence. The girls got so psychological shocked also. But as passing time, they started to realize that everything that we was passing is not a problem because we are taking care of them. And they started to understand that this is the best way of taking care of their moral ideas and about their intellectual way to get skills. And right now they are better, but because we are still teaching our values at home, but we are still afraid about what can happen, and they are also, because if the sentence continues in the second court, we will have to stay 50 days with not 50 days separate of them.
Yeah. And also, as the father just explained, they understand that their mom is actually their best teacher. It's very much like homeschooling in the United States. You know, you talk to the children who've been homeschooled, you talk to the families. It works so well. Before we go to you, Isabelle, I want to ask one more question to the parents. What comes next for you? I mean, we have this appeal that is ongoing. If you lose, I guess you're going to have to go spend 50 days in this. I guess the closest analogy you would have is like a minimum security prison, kind of like what Jeffrey Epstein had, where he could go and come. But you know, what gives you hope in the future? What is continuing to drive you?
All the time we see hope in our case because we appealed for the second court right now, and we are waiting for the judgment. Even the prosecutor from the second instance, he asked for our acquittal also, as the same thing did the prosecutor in the first instance. And it was proved. We can see, just looking for the sentence from the judge, that it's extremely ideological. He talked about stuff that doesn't mean intellectual improvement yet. He just talked about ideological things, about Christian things. And the doctrination in communism in our schools, in our country, is getting all the time bigger. And we don't want to put our kids back on the school. And right now, in this moment, we hope for the acquittal, because there is no crime. We committed no crime. There is no abandono intellectual.
No intellectual neglect. Yep.
Oh yes, intellectual neglect. To teach our children, to give education to them, is our natural right, because the family is the first one that can care about the kids, and we sincerely hope that all this psychological abusement that our family is suffering stops in the second instance when our appeal will be proved.
Amen. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not just Brazil where the schools are indoctrinating children with communism and crazy ideas about sex and gender. The same thing's happening in the United States, although, praise God, we have pretty much an undisputed right now to educate our children at home without permission from the government. So we intend to keep it that way. Thank you both very much for standing firm, for sharing this with us. I want to go to your attorney now, Isabelle Monteiro. She is the lawyer on this case. Isabelle, talk to us a little bit about Brazilian law in this area. I understand there is no law governing homeschooling per se, but that the courts have chimed in and urged Congress to pass some kind of law. What's the legal status of homeschooling right now? I know there are many homeschoolers there. Not all of them are subject to this kind of persecution, but what's the legal situation in Brazil?
Okay. I work as the attorney from the National Association as well, IKJSLDA, United States. And we have right now more than 75,000 families in homeschool in Brazil. That represent more than 150,000 children, we can say about it. It's a lot of kids that is in this situation like Adauto and Ieda right now. In 2018, the cases of homeschool went to our Supreme Court, and they said that it is according to the Constitution, but we need a federal law it is possible in our education system. And we are still waiting for this education law since then. So many years, so many kids starting homeschool. We are fighting for this law all the time. It's already passed in the Congress. Now we are waiting the senator's house. and we approved a requirement of real necessity to continue this law, and we are waiting for their vote right now. But this year is an election year, so I don't think we can have a good answer from them, because they will need to get out of the senator's house to start the new election things for 2026. So right now in Brazil, we are having this problem with criminal cases and cases with others problems with the families, like very big fines. We had a family that had a fine than more than 1 million reais that they had to pay it because they was homeschooling their children. We have problems of families that are having their driver's license suspended, their credit cards suspended, and their passport suspended. This all because they want to do their right to educate their children at home. So right now, the judiciary, I can say for you, Alex, that we are having a big problem with them because the judiciary is so ideological also. And as also we have the international treatment about the homeschool, they ignore it. They ignore all the international treatments. They just focus that we doesn't have a law and the families cannot homeschool their child.
Wow. Well, take heart. We have had the same problems in the United States decades ago, where government was throwing parents in jail and kidnapping children and terrorizing families. And we prevailed because nobody comes between a mom, a dad, and their children. So I have confidence that this is a battle that you guys will win over the long term. Very grateful for standing up and doing that. So thank you guys for what you're doing. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. We will definitely keep our audience informed as we go forward. But really want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for standing firm. And so there you go, folks. Hugely significant case. The UN now wants this around the world. They want the government to come down on homeschoolers. We've been talking about it. We will continue to talk about it, but this is totally unacceptable. We will not allow the government to come between parents and their children. That's not the role of government. That is the role of parents to decide how children will be educated. So it's the tip of the iceberg, folks. And it's coming here if we are not careful. So we got to be strong. The White House right now is monitoring this. I know a lot of people around the world are looking at this, but we always have to be vigilant. As our founders told us, if we are not vigilant, we will lose our liberty. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Stay with us. We have one more incredible guest coming up on the program today. My good friend, Paul Blair, pastor, former NFL, awesome guy. And so stay with us. We'll be right back.
Your children are your legacy. Treat them as such. When you homeschool with Classical Conversations, they connect you with a local community of like-minded families who not only learn together, but do life together. They equip homeschool parents just like you, or grandparents, with the confidence to raise bright, observant students who have a lifelong love of learning. Please visit classicalconversations.com/LSM to learn more.
Welcome back to the Sentinel Report for our final segment. Folks, the polling data is atrocious. Most of our young people want socialism. They believe that the government ought to be giving you free stuff and running the economy. We just had our 250th birthday as a country. Our young people don't even know what we're celebrating. I mean, the polls are shocking. 2/3 of our young people don't know what we're celebrating. Half of Americans don't know what we are celebrating, according to a poll out of the Cato Institute. And it's easy to blame the government brainwash. I mean, schools, whatever they are, masquerading as schools. But I believe that the pulpits of this country, the pastors of this country, the shepherds of this country have some degree of responsibility here as well. Joining us to discuss all this and much more is my good friend, Paul Blair. He is a pastor at Liberty Church in Oklahoma City and also here in Orlando. He is the founder and the leader of the Liberty Pastors Network. We've got an event coming up in Chicago and one after that in Arizona. You definitely want to send your pastor there. Paul, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Alex, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on. I enjoyed that last segment. And as I said, let's just do this one in English just to keep it short and sweet and easy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. And so glad you got to hear a little bit of that. It's astounding to me that in the 21st century, we still have rogue governments terrorizing parents who want to educate their own children. It's crazy. But Paul, you've seen the polling data too. I mean, you know we have a big problem in this country. And as I said in the introduction, it's really easy to point the finger at the schools. And of course, parents, I think, have some blame here. But pastors, pastors were the ones who inspired our founding fathers to do what they did. And the pulpits in America, many of them have fallen silent. How responsible are pastors and church leadership for the situation we find ourselves in?
Well, very much so. But in our defense, Alex, in America, we've really never been threatened. I mean, we have grown up and enjoyed for 250 years the blessings of liberty because the pastors 250 years ago understood tyranny. I mean, they were living under it with King George. And they understood what freedom was and free market. They understood what it meant to own your own property rather than be paying rent to a landlord for your life. And, this is one of the areas that pastors have just never been taught. We've never been taught biblical worldview of economics. We've never been taught biblical worldview of civil government because in America, we've just always had it. We didn't have to fight for it. We didn't risk losing it. However, over these last 5 or 6 years, especially with COVID, all the nut stuff that went down with that, we have been on the precipice of losing it. So there's a great opportunity now to reawaken pastors. And the data that you were just reporting, the first time in my life, I mean, it used to be for all of American history, if somebody was labeled as a socialist, that was an automatic get out of office card. I mean, there was nobody going to be elected underneath that. But now you've got a majority of young people that think that having the government own and control everything and you having no freedom, no right to buy or sell or choose your own job or choose where you live or better your life, they think that that's a better idea. I mean, we understand human nature. I mean, we have coffee mugs that say, thank God it's Friday, not thank God it's Monday, because we are looking for, goofing off a little bit, And if we aren't rewarded for risk taking, if we aren't rewarded for hard work, then we will get no risk taking and hard work. It's not an accident that the overwhelming majority of Nobel Prize winners have come from the United States of America. The overwhelming majority of all inventions, whether it be air conditioning or elevators or airplanes or automobiles or electricity, everything we enjoy in our day and age was created here in America or invented here in America because of the free market. So that's a great illustration and a perfect example of why this pastors conference is so relevant. And we remind pastors that we're supposed to be making disciples, and the disciples aren't just to live for Jesus on Sunday mornings. We're supposed to glorify God in all that we do. So how we approach business, how we handle money, the role of civil government versus the overreach of civil government when compared to self-government, family government, and church government, all is so critical. And those are some of the things that we teach pastors at these camps. And Alex, you've been to almost all of them. I think you've been such a featured speaker. Of course, some of the things we address is globalism, communism, and Islamism, both threats really right now at our front door. So we invite all pastors, or if there's a parishioner listening, send your pastor. It only costs $99 for this entire 3-day workshop. 3 nights hotel, it's a second honeymoon and a gift to your pastor or to you, pastor, if you're listening. $99 covers 3 nights hotel, a lovely Oak Brook Hilton Resort and Golf Resort, lots of great restaurants and shoppings in the area. We cover 6 meals that we have together as a pastor's camp, and then you've got lots of free time, and then all of the training. And we got Tim Barton, yourself, Bill Federer, Kevin Freeman speaking on Islamism and China, Frank Gaffney talking about Islamism, Kevin Freeman talking about communism and China. K. Carl Smith, wonderful contrast between Karl Marx and Frederick Douglass, both born in the same year, and just contrast their lives, free market Christianity versus atheistic communism and the outcomes from both. So we invite all pastors, sign up, libertypastorsU.com. All the information is there. Just $99 for about a $2,000 value. And I do want to thank our good friend, Art Alley. Art was the founder of Timothy Plan. Art is largely responsible for these camps with his incredible generosity. So pastors, come and take advantage of a wonderful getaway and a great learning experience. And about 5 years worth of new sermon material that I promise you've never taught on before, but your people need.
Yeah, amen, Paul. And I love the way you always start these conferences. Like, what part of your life is Jesus not the Lord over? And if there is any answer in there, you've got a problem, right? You should be the Lord over your entire life, over your business, your politics, your family. You do a wonderful job, Paul. I want to thank you. Folks, if you have a pastor that you love, that you care about, if you have a church that you love, that you care about, you want to send your pastor to these events. End of July, it's going to be up in Chicago. End of August is going to be over in Scottsdale, Arizona. It is so much fun. I tell you, I've been, I think, to almost all of them. These are wonderful men of God coming together. Bring your wife. I can't say enough good things about these. They're a lot of fun, and you are going to learn a tremendous amount, or your pastor. So please send them. Paul, the website, I know libertypastors.org does take you there, but the official website, I guess, is libertypastorsu.com. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've got 3 or 4 that land in the same target, but we promote Liberty Pastors U as its university continuing education, libertypastorsu.com.
All right, folks, go check it out. Again, send your pastor. He will be very thankful that you did. Paul Blair, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in Chicago in just about a week or two. So thank you.
Thanks, Alex, and go Bears.
Thank you so much. God bless you. And folks, for those who didn't catch that reference, Paul used to play professional football, and I think the Cubs or the Bears play in Chicago. So that tells you how much I know about football. But no, Paul had an incredible career in the NFL before joining the ministry, before God called him into the ministry. So folks, check that out. You can check out some of those speeches. Even if you're not a pastor, they put them up online. You can watch some of that. So get involved somehow, folks. We need the churches if we're going to reclaim this country. We're going to pass on the incredible heritage that our Christian forefathers laid down for us. I'm Alex Newman. This is the Sentinel Report. We appreciate you so much. Go to the website, libertysentinel.org. You'll find our newsletter and so much more. We'll tune in next week, whether you're listening to us on the radio or the podcast or the YouTube or whatever. Tune in again next week for more. Thanks again for watching, for listening. God bless you all.